Marcus Harper, the second with us, Oregon. Offensive lineman, you can't tell, right? You're going to play offense. You're getting in the trenches.
Yeah.
What's this like? I mean, I know you got your future. You're going to know in the next, 3 months or so, but what is all of this like today?
It's different for sure. I mean, offensive linemen naturally as a position, they don't have opportunity like this. So for me to be, blessed with opportunity like this, it's a surreal moment for real. I'm seeing a lot of guys who, I grew up watching things like that. I seen Cam Jordan. I seen Mark Ingram walking through here. I'll probably bump into Christian Gonzalez from time to time, an old teammate of mine. So it's good to see some guys that I haven't seen in a while.
Marcus, you were playing for one of the most interesting coaches in the country in Dan Lanning.
Absolutely. Interesting is a great way to describe him.
He has a great year. All of a sudden, Alabama's open, and he basically said no before anybody could ask.
Yeah.
What did that mean to you guys to not hear, coaches say no about things all the time.
Absolutely.
He kind of said it in a different fashion that was like, no, I'm 10 toes down in Oregon.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, especially with the landscape of college football and coaches kind of getting sold around like hotcakes nowadays, it was cool to kind of get a guy who, he's standing on what he said. He came in originally, he was like, this is where he wants to build out, start his legacy and things like that as a coach. And, I mean, he's staying true to that. Like, everything that he said he was going to do, he's been able to do in a short amount of time. And so that just shows who he is as a man, his character and things like that. And I appreciate him because, I'm going to be honest, I didn't want to go through another coaching change. He had a pretty great program that he set up for us, so I was all for it.
So since the last game, which I know didn't end the way you guys wanted to with Ohio State, but since that time, is it just buckle down? You got people telling you where to go. You got workouts. Well, but I've heard that. You got a regiment.
Yeah, no, it's real tight knit. I mean, fortunately, Oregon wasn't too different from what I'm doing now. So I mean, it's not that much different from my lifestyle I already previously used to live. But I mean, it's real tight knit. Again, we're waking up at a certain amount of time. Lee has us on a real tight regimen and things like that. But waking up at a certain time, eating certain things, you only get a certain amount of times where you can, kind of, have a cheat meal and things like that. But yeah, it's real tight, real regimented. But I mean, on the other side of discipline, you're gonna get what you want. So, I mean, I'm all for it.
Marcus, what was the difference, Pac-12 to Big Ten this year? Was it stark, or the Pac-12 a year ago was really good?
I'm about to say, I mean, look at the Pac-12 last year, and when you broke us apart, 2 out of the 4 conference champions and the Power 4 were previous Pac-12 champion, or previous Pac-12, opponents. So, I mean, the Pac-12, I think, notoriously wasn't looked at, as big as a dominant conference. But I mean, what each individual school was able to do in their first year in the new conference, I mean, speaks, relative to what Pac-12 was. But I mean, I would just say your trenches were a lot different for sure. But I knew that's where Oregon possessed a different flavor that we added to the Big Ten, which is why we came in. We were so dominant our first year.
The last year of the Pac-12 was a hell of a year. The quarterback play was unbelievable.
Absolutely.
And you had the run. Washington plays for the national title.
Yeah.
What was it like as a player when things were starting to fall apart when USC and UCLA announced they were leaving?
Yeah, I mean, you looked at it. I think when they did that, we were at the start of, our season. It was very early on. And so you kind of look around and you kind of just guess, oh, what would be cool? Then you start going back to 2014 when NCAA was out. So you start thinking about all these dream matchups. You got Oregon versus Michigan State. And so you think about it, whatever. And then once you see that it's a reality, you're like, oh, shit, you could really – okay, this is a real thing. And then the schedule popped out, and you were like, okay, you got Oregon versus Illinois, Oregon versus Michigan State, Oregon versus Ohio State, all these different schools. And you're like, oh, this is a real deal. And it was cool for me because a Chicago kid, mostly growing up and seeing Midwest football, went out to the West Coast, and now I get to come back my last year of college football and play, in Big Ten football. It was a surreal moment, big thing.
Best sports city in America, Chicago. Absolute best sports city.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's the best sports city in America. You guys got to play with a couple different quarterbacks who were both really good, similar-ish, but different.
Very different, yeah.
And Bo Nix, who Kenny Dillingham kind of turned the light on with him.
Absolutely.
And then this year with Dylan Gabriel, a guy who is, am I wrong in saying he is the ultimate gamer?
Absolutely.
If it is on, he's never bored.
No, absolutely not. Dylan, and I think that's the uniqueness about both individuals because Bo was so I don't want to say, let's say stoic. Bo was so very tight and about his business, and his fun showed through his play. Dylan was fun, and his play showed, like, his fun was also showed throughout his play as well. And it's two different personalities. Like, they're both top-tier quarterbacks, you know, amazing, both Heisman finalists, whatever. But they both are, like, it's cool to see, like, there's literally more than one way to skin a cat. You know what I'm saying? And so that was great to kind of be a part of that, see, you know, how Bo went about his business, see how Dylan went about his business, and they both kind of ended up with the same result. So it was great to watch those guys both work week in and week out.
When you played Ohio State the first time, I always thought you might have to play them again.
Yeah.
Not only for the Big Ten championship, but again.
Yeah.
My goodness, who knows? But when they beat you, and they beat you pretty bad, I'm not bringing that up, but could you tell they were a different team and were on a completely different level?
Yeah, I mean, you looked at how they played Tennessee the first time, and we were like, okay, we knew that they weren't going to come in here and just kind of lay down and kind of give it to us, but we knew what we needed to bring, and we knew what we could bring too, because again, we had beat them before. We just got our momentum out a little bit later than they got theirs out. And it sucks because, again, like, that's a new landscape of college football. Like, you see how quickly you don't get a quarter and a half to figure it out, and you're in the playoffs. Like, you got to come out swinging or you're done. Like, your season is done. And it was a kind of a surreal moment because it was like, dang, like, college football, that's it. Luckily, you know, I had the Big Ten championship. You know, I had something to, like, kind of hang my hat on for the season. But, like, you know, Penn State, for example, like, you know, they don't have nothing to essentially commemorate the season on. You know, and that's just how the landscape of college football is. But I mean, it was crazy just to be like, just like that, like, college football's over with, dog.
Yeah, that's got to be a very, like, bittersweet moment because you know you've accomplished something that you set out to do, but it's like
it's done.
Yeah, I mean, like, you might get to play with some of these guys again, maybe.
You might, yeah. I mean, you'll see a lot of the guys, you know, crossing paths and stuff like that. But I mean, that team will never be the same ever again. You'll never play with those guys ever again, and you'll play with different variations of those guys. But I won't have Tez Johnson. I won't have Dylan Gabriel. I won't have Josh Connolly, and I won't have Jeffrey Bossa, you know. And it's like, it's not now that you're realizing, like, how we knew how special we were. Like, I'm not saying that, but you see guys have individual success. He was like, dang, like, we really should have achieved something a lot bigger.
Yeah. You decided to come back for that,
yes.
right? I mean, because there was talk of you going out last year.
Yeah.
What would you say to players on the benefit of staying, not just for NIL or whatever, but of staying and being in a spot for a few years? Like, there are a lot of hit and run lovers in college football, and I get some of that.
Yeah.
But, like, there is something to say about I'm here. Well, and just because it's going to make you better if you don't have to move, and moving sucks.
Moving sucks, yeah. How I always looked at it. Now, this is just for me. Now, everyone's situation is different, so I'm not knocking the transfer portal and things like that. But I think you have to honestly sit and evaluate your personal, like, where are you at as a football player. And I think for me, the best situation was for me to stay in Eugene and kind of not jump ship just because something looked inconvenient at the time. I kind of played the long game a little bit. And once I did that, I was able to reap the benefits of it, you know, Big Ten championship, all conference, you know, 3 years, no sacks, all these different things that a lot of guys just, you know, you just don't know if you're so, you know, you're just selling quick. Again, it's different per situation, but I know for me and what I had going on, that was what was best for me.
You know that the bio, strong, intelligent, twitchy, technically sound, versatility, but these are the words. We just had a guy that owns a bunch of businesses.
Yeah.
And he used the word relentless.
Yes.
Which is your work ethic.
Yes.
And you know, as long as you keep that.
Yes.
No matter what your career is or later, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel that I've had a lot of people tell me that, and I sense that within myself, and that's kind of why I keep, you know, the people around me. You gotta be cut a certain way because I can't lose this, you know, this focus, this relentlessness, because this is I feel like everyone has it, everyone doesn't, so it's something special that I got. So,
What was the adversity of the Mario Cristobal coaching change? Because it's tough to do that because that's the guy you wanted to play for.
Yeah. And
there's not many better at coaching offensive linemen than him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very, very good at it. And then he's gone, and you've got to kind of react to that.
Yeah. It kind of left you in a state of uncertainty, but I mean, for me, I kind of put the pressure on myself. Like, you have to perform. You have to pop on the scene right now. Like, if not, you know, they got a bunch of different guys that, you know, Landon knows and things like that. And it's real easy to get lost in the shuffle. So it was hard for sure because it was like you just don't know what this guy's about, what you're built like, you know, all these other different things. But, I mean, I rose to the occasion for sure, and I rose to the challenge. So,
You're about to be a pro.
Yeah.
You're going to go and you're probably going to have a coach fired.
Absolutely.
And guess what? You don't get to jump in the portal if you're under contract.
Exactly.
Like you have to do that. So I think it speaks a lot to you to like realize that like, look, my goal is this. I can't, just run from it. Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Like I've been able to persevere and stick through a lot of stuff that a lot of guys, because they made a decision out of like just instinct. They didn't think it through. Whereas me, I can able to kind of keep a kill shot on it and kind of just persevere through it and eventually get to my goal. So
the draft is in late April. Does it matter to you where you go? I mean, I'm sure you have preferences, but is it interesting you don't know where you're going to go?
Yeah, it is for sure, because it's opposite. In high school, I had the opportunity to pick and choose where I wanted to go. Now a team is essentially betting on me and seeing what value that I hold and bring to their team. And I know I'm very valuable. I know a lot of offensive linemen don't do what I do. They can't do what I do, and they haven't done it for the amount of time that I've been able to do it. So that's just what's the value that I bring. And then I'm a great locker room piece, too. Like I like having fun with the guys in the locker room and things like that. So
we have to do a quick rapid-fire Chicago quiz then.
All right.
Okay. What's the best pizza?
Deep dish pizza for sure.
Okay.
Lou Malnati's.
Okay, Lou Malnati's.
Yes.
Okay. Chicago dog. Yes
Portillo.
or no?
Yes or no? Portillo's.
Portillo's, okay.
Let's go. Yeah.
What's the best Italian beef?
Ooh, next question. Next question.
He doesn't want to commit.
Next question.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cubs or White Sox?
Sorry, Cubs.
Be careful.
Okay, no, that's fine. There we go.
Southside.
Okay. All right. And see, the other thing is you don't have to it's like Blackhawks, it's Bulls, and it's the Bears. So there you go.
Yeah. But I mean, Chicago. I mean, that's my city, man. I love me some Chicago, man. It's an underrated city
for
football, I would say for sure. But I mean, if you just like going out and exploring, the Midwest for sure, go to Chicago.
It's a great community city.
Great community city.
Like
for
people like hanging out with each other.
And people love Chicago.
Yeah.
A lot of people. I wouldn't leave Chicago if I didn't have to. So yeah.
Good luck. We appreciate your time. It's been great to get to know you, Marcus, and all of that's ahead of you. And be who you are.
Absolutely.
Don't ever let anyone change you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank
Appreciate
you so much.
it.
Thank you.
Again, Marcus Harper II, Oregon offensive lineman, NFL draft pick. This is 365 Sports in New Orleans.